for this person...
You only need one group, one apple, one group of people.
But for this black man to become president, he had to have gotten support of white America, correct?
Correct.
He got support from America.
Well, what does that have to do with making sure that people's rights are protected? If we think about why the Voting Rights Act even came about, there was a reason for it. I mean, and when people were emancipated in 1865, just because they all of a sudden had the right to become a citizen and had the right to vote, doesn't mean they were actually able to use it. It took 100 years later for us to get an act to say, now here's the teeth in this law. Here's the teeth. There's no reason anyone can be denied because of X, Y, and Z. Just because we have a black president, just because we've achieved this feat, we've made progress.
Significant progress.
I don't doubt that. We've made progress, but we have not completed the mission. As long as there are still people who are upset at the fact that President Obama is an African-American man, we're still going to have a race issue. Race is not dead in this country.
I think white, black, Hispanic, everybody understands that no matter if Barack is black or white. I mean, we've made a stance. We've got a black president in office. That's just the first step to what we've been working for 100 years already. That's the biggest step that we've made.
Okay.
So it's not going to change racism, and you'll find out, you'll see it yourself out in the street. You'll see it yourself, and I want you to ask yourself, oh my God, is this really happening? Is this guy really being racial towards me? I mean, come on, Donovan.
No, okay. It took a lot of people to go into those voting booths and say, I'm going to elect this president, this person to be president. And so they elected someone of color. Where's the racism? He had to get the popular vote, and he got the electoral votes. Where's the racism?
It's still there.
Very much so.
Everywhere.
But if it were there, he would not. I'm saying if it were there, he would not have gotten elected.
I hate to even say this because I'm putting myself out on a limb that Barack got in office for a lot of the right reasons. And I think that you say just because the white people voted for him, that's the only reason.
I said, no, I said the white people, I said Hispanic people, black folks, I said.
Right. We also had a number of young voters that had never, ever voted before that came out and supported this man to become the president of the United States.
But they were still Caucasian.
There were a lot of white people that voted for him that basically just wanted to get Bush out and saw that Barack had a better idea than he had, a better plan.
No, but Bush wasn't running.
And at the same time,
Bush wasn't running.
Does a vote for Obama equal that the person means that the person is not racist, or were they just choosing what they felt may have been the lesser of two evils at the time? I mean, here you had what the Republican Party was representing, and here you had what the Democratic Party was representing. And if you had, you held certain views and you felt like this party was better, does that necessarily mean I don't still have a problem with black people?
Listen, we've got a black man in office, right?
Yes.
So now security has heightened even higher in Washington because he's black. And you asked me, where's racism?
But all I'm saying is, if the majority of the people were racist, it would have shown up in their vote.
Can you prove that statement? I mean, that's a pretty grand statement, and to just say that, it sounds good, but unless you have some numbers, you can't really say that because, I mean, do we really know how many people didn't vote? Do we know how many people voted just because they didn't want a Republican in office? And have we really accounted for all of the, not just the young people, but there were a lot of older African Americans who never voted, who made a point to get out and cast the ballot.
We've already demonstrated this. African Americans vote for the Democratic ticket. That's what they do.
They vote, and this time they did.
They vote. The ones that vote, they vote for the Democratic ticket.
Okay, and when your white voters came out, your white voters had at the end two choices to make. They had one or two choices to make.
Okay.
To pick the right guy. They picked the right man, not because he was black, because he was the right man.
I didn't say.
And racism still exists because some of those same people, white people that voted for him, and I work with them, are still being racist. Hope I don't get fired for that one.
Okay.
No, I'm
think about it.
I'm saying racism around me.
You're racist. You get in that booth. There's nobody there but you. There's nobody there but you. Why would you vote for you're racist?
Because I'm ready for a change.
Right. Donovan, there were people, there were
ready for
white
change.
people that I've talked to before the actual election happened, and they were against Barack. We had conversations down the line later on, they were for Barack. But with comments like, well, let's see what your people are going to do now. That's not racist? That's very racist. I voted for him, but now let's see what your people are going to do.
Okay. I'm going to go back to my point that Carlos Mencia said. Be careful what you wish for. Because it is a fact that the Supreme Court is relooking at the Voting Rights Act. And as I said, the position is, well, do we still need it? We don't need it because we have a black president.
And it sounds like they're thinking the same way that you're thinking. Just because we have a black president, racism is gone. Oh, that's wonderful.
Just because we have a free food program doesn't mean people aren't still hungry. Just because
Good
we had a
point.
woman who ran for president doesn't mean that sexism does not still exist in whatever workplace or wherever you go.
Excellent point.
So just because we have a black president doesn't mean racism just dropped out of the picture. Maybe it was not reflected in this election the way it has been in some, when we looked at some of our other previous leaders who have not made it that far because they were cut down. But that doesn't mean racism just went away. It's still there.
Were they cut down or were they just not?
Well, when I say
really
cut
qualified?
down, I mean basically they were eliminated. Whether that means they were removed from the country, whether that means they were assassinated, whether they were, however, they were made ineffective in the position that they were before when they were speaking for the people.
I don't know how many times I've had a conversation with a white person when a white guy was elected president of the United States, and they said, well, he looks presidential, and he speaks so well. I heard comments like this all the time from white people. Oh, he speaks so well.
Well, what would you expect from a presidential candidate?
Exactly. But that was racism. Undertone in their voice was racist.
So now we're talking about even structural racism. Even if we're just talking about on the surface, you want to say, where's the racism because now we have a black president. What about structural racism? He still has some things to work through. I mean, you can't tell me there aren't people right now still in the White House who don't want him there because he is a black man.
I didn't say
so
that.
it's still there. You're saying, where's the racism because we have a black president?
It's right in front of your face, my friend.
My position is this. I go back to be careful what you wish for. And as a result of getting what you want, there's some unintended circumstances. One could be that, you know what, the Voting Rights Act, it doesn't get renewed because the Supreme Court says, well, we don't need it because we have a black president. That's my point. And when you look at the fact that you had millions of people go into that voting booth and they made a decision to check off, I'm going to vote for this black man. Where's the racism? That they voted for him because he was black?
Like you said, when they walked in that booth, they were all alone.
Right. And
nobody knew what they were thinking and how they felt.
Yes.
They could have been in that booth going, you know what? I'm going to have to vote for this black man. I definitely don't want this other man in office.
And that's probably not the word of choice.
Ouch.
Probably censored.
You know what? We do have to take a quick break, and we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Blacktown Square. I'm Donovan Robertson.
I'm Tony Owens.
And Shanita.
For a black president.
What does that have to do with somebody out on the street? Racism still exists on the street. I mean, now you're pulling it out to another era where, let's stay focused. We've got a black president in office.
Correct.
Racism still exists.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
So where are you going?
No. My point is, when you
Be careful what you wish for.
yes, I go back to that says there's a black person who is the president of this country, and it's very difficult to cry racism when the leader of this nation is African American.